to help. I think looking at that macro again, not only was the budget also beyond the budget, if you like, you've got the ongoing inflation, you've got export, you've got the geographical, the whole global geographical uncertainty. And all of that just continues to feed into our business thinking here, doesn't it? The sentiment. So I think there's still going to be quite a lot of let's wait and see approach.
And also talking about the global market, another one that spot that snuck in was the low value imports. So before, if it was £135 or less that you're importing goods, you could class them as a gift, so you didn't have to pay any customs duty on it, or you had duty relief on that. They're now looking at actually scrapping that as well. So you're going to be paying customs duty on everything that you bring into the UK, which again, that then drives up the cost of bringing in. I know it means we want to buy British and stuff like that, but there are certain sectors, certain items you cannot buy from Britain because it is cheaper to buy from abroad, or it is better quality, or it is easier to buy from there. That's looking from March 2029. So you do have a bit of time, but you just know that cost is coming in at some point. So
that will kick inflation up slightly at least.
And
without at the risk of stating the obvious, that whilst people are kind of celebrating inflation coming down, which is a good thing, ultimately year on year the cost of things are still going up. And inflation it's not deflation, it's still inflation, just at a smaller rate.
Right.
So when they are kind of taking more out of the pocket via taxes, and inflation is still going up even at a lesser rate, well, the gap is just still getting bigger and bigger, which is becoming harder and harder to close.
It is. It's getting more and more difficult to try and look at the positives, really, of the budget. It's kind of depressing, really. I suppose one of the other positives as well is they're still sticking with the triple lock for pensions, which is nice for pensioners on the state pension. But the double-edged sword of that is next tax year, 26-27, I think it's over £12,500 a year, so you're just under your tax-free allowance on a full UK state pension. So that means from 27-28 tax year, so the tax year afterwards, if they carry on with the triple lock, you will be having to pay income tax on any amounts over and above the actual tax-free threshold of 2,570. Because they've frozen those thresholds until 2031-32 tax year. So we're going to be bringing in thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of pensioners into the income tax self-assessment sort of regime, which is not ideal. You'd kind of hope that sort of pension age would be done with form filling and box ticking and stuff like that. And they are trying to make a push for simple assessment, which again is not ideal because it's not a great system. There are lots of failings. We've had quite a few where the simple assessment team have said, you've overpaid tax to our client, even though they're actually on self-assessment and they owed tax, and they've refunded them the tax. And then they've had to take that refund and pay the additional tax with the refund back to them. And you think, I filed a self-assessment for this client because they needed to file one.
It goes back to those systems, doesn't it?
It goes back to systems. They just do not speak to each other. And it is infuriating. And it's quite distressing for the client as well, because they go, I've got a tax refund. Actually, no, you've got this amount of tax plus that refund to pay back now because they've made a mistake. So it is.
I was just going to say, I think it is important to note, whilst it's not ideal that the state pension is essentially tipping you a bit into beyond the personal allowance into the tax bracket, it's still a very worthwhile thing to contribute towards paying NI. And most people don't have a choice anyway, but to make sure that you are ideally getting the full state pension for a household, so a husband and wife, or you're going to be looking at around 25,000 a year gross of income between you both. So that's going to be
worthwhile. Worthwhile doing. And
absolutely. Because I sometimes get that question: is it worth it? And it is.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you've earned it. You've worked for it. And again, also at the back of that is the trying to remove the idea of non-DOMs contributing Class 2 national insurance, which is about £3.50 a week.
Yeah.
And they're trying to push them into, I believe, to the Class 3s, which was about about 4 or 5 times more expensive. So I think last year was just over £18 a week for the same period, which I suppose is fair because they are not domiciled in the UK.
Yep.
They are, but then the kicker is they might have contributed to towards the UK state pension, and probably have 3 or 4 years left to pay, but they've emigrated outside of the UK towards the retirement age and just need to top up that bit there. It kind of feels a bit of a kick in the teeth when you contribute over 40 odd years and you only need to do another 2 or 3, and now you're having to pay 4 or 5 times more than what someone else would have done.
I believe they've tackled. Have they tackled backdating the non-dom?
They're looking at tackling that as well to try and stop the ones where they are almost grossly overclaiming and stuff like that. So I do see the point in that as well, because that's very insular where we do need to look after. If you have contributed to the pot, then it is fair enough that you do get those discounts.
Absolutely.
You do get those rewards for contributing to the pot. But the ones where they have literally they've not contributed enough sort of into that pot, why should people get the benefit from that? So it is kind of a swings and roundabout sort of route, and it does speak quite heavily of one brush for all sort of thing, and it does seem a very HMRC Whitehall approach of, well, one person's doing it, you're all doing it sort of thing, and not actually looking at it on a case by case basis, which it's so.